When you stick a shovel into the soil in your backyard, you don't actually realize what you're dealing with at first. The soil looks loose, clean, and suitable for planting. But this sense of suitability is itself an illusion. Dig a little deeper, and what you see is a homogenized structure. A structure that has already been processed. No clear layering, no dark humus, rich organic matter, no root-like network traces, and none of that moist, earthy smell. It feels more like an industrially filtered medium, a material that can still support plant life, but it has already lost its ecological background. Many people interpret this state as normal soil, but in reality, it is already a residual form of a dismantled system. Plants can still survive in it for a short time, but all growth becomes dependent on external inputs, fertilizers, water, light management, and human intervention. The more you try to control it, the more fragile it becomes. Yellowing seedlings, stalled root development, and declining yields. These phenomena may seem unrelated, but they stem from a single cause. The soil is no longer an operating system. It has become merely a container. And the real core of the problem goes deeper than plants simply failing to grow. It is that the soil has lost its ability to self-fertilize. Truly healthy soil has never been static dirt. It is a continuously operating, underground ecological network. Bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes, and protozoa form a dynamic exchange system. Plants do not directly extract nutrients from minerals. Rather, they participate in an exchange relationship. Roots release carbon sources, microorganisms decompose organic matter, and fungi act as transport networks, connecting resource nodes across space. The entire system is more like an underground economy than a pile of soil. Once this system exists, soil can fertilize itself. Once it disappears, soil is just mineral dust. The fundamental problem with modern agriculture is that it dismantled this system. Tillage breaks fungal networks, and chemical fertilizers alter exchange mechanisms. And pesticides reduce community diversity. On the surface, yields increase, but the underlying structure is continuously weakened. Eventually, a state emerges in which plants can survive, but the soil can no longer grow. The reason forests require no external inputs is simple. They have never lost this system. Leaves fall, dead wood decomposes, and animal remains return to the soil. Microorganisms continuously break down and recycle materials. There are no interruptions and no external dependencies. Only a fully closed, self-sustaining cycle. Forest soil is not maintained, it is accumulated. That is the real difference. Agricultural systems are consumptive structures, while natural systems are accumulative structures. And the real question becomes quite clear. How can soil be brought back into an accumulation mode? If you actually try to do this, you will find a hard truth. It is not solved by a single fertilizer, but by a structural process. First, you need something that does not disappear. You gather charcoal, not packaged products, but the kind left from campfires, barbecues, or burned dead wood. You break it down into smaller and smaller pieces, because only then does its internal structure become a usable spatial system. Each fragment is, in fact, a network of hollow cavities. It does not rot, and it does not disappear. Its only function is to become a long-term microbial habitat and a reliable water storage reservoir. But structure alone is meaningless. It must be activated. So you take a small portion of forest soil, old compost bottom material, or worm castings. These may look ordinary, but they contain a complete microbial ecosystem. Once they enter the biochar structure, they quickly colonize it, filling the pores and establishing stable communities. The empty structure becomes a living one. But the system still cannot operate because it lacks continuous energy. So you add another component, not fertilizer, but ongoing organic matter. Weeds, fallen leaves, and shredded branches. Even small amounts of kitchen scraps are added after being chopped. These are not treated as waste, but as fuel for microbial decomposition. They are continuously broken down, transformed, released, and recycled within the system. Over the next few days, a crucial transition occurs. You cannot see it directly. But the system is transforming from a mixture into an ecosystem. Microorganisms colonize the charcoal pores and multiply rapidly. Organic matter decomposes and releases nutrients. The entire structure gradually stabilizes into a self-sustaining underground network. This period cannot be interrupted because it determines whether the system truly comes alive. After a few days, this mixture is no longer what it used to be. It becomes an activated ecological module. When you return it to the soil, you are not fertilizing. You are connecting to a system. You do not bury it deeply, because the real exchange happens in the active surface zone. You simply embed it into the soil and allow water to connect it with the existing structure. The change does not occur explosively, but in a stable and irreversible way. The soil begins to darken, not as a coating, but through structural transformation. Moisture becomes retained and no longer easily lost. Earthworms return because the system has restored habitable conditions. Plants begin to grow steadily rather than cycling through collapse. The deeper changes are what truly matter. The system begins to enter a state of self-enrichment. Biochar continuously stores new organic matter and nutrients. Microbial networks expand, and plants continuously return carbon sources to the system. A closed loop forms, starting with organic matter and microbial decomposition, leading to nutrient release, plant uptake, and root carbon return, ending with microbial strengthening and biochar storage deepening. This cycle does not end, it only becomes stronger. Time here is no longer consumption, but accumulation. The first stage is recovery, and the second stage is stabilization. The third stage is enrichment, and the fourth stage is strengthening. Making soil fertile is not a single operation, but the process of a system entering self-growth. When you extend the timeline to several years, a clear division becomes visible. On one side, a consumptive system that depends on constant inputs and becomes more exhausting over time. On the other, a self-cycling system that becomes darker, looser, and more stable. One is exhausting the future, the other is generating it. And what you are truly changing is not whether plants grow well, but whether this soil remains a consumptive container or returns to being a self-operating, self-growing life system. Once this system is established, it is no longer just soil. It becomes a continuously enriching ecological entity, a structure that never stops, becoming more fertile, a subterranean life network that strengthens itself over time. And now, only one question remains. Are you willing to try it once, on your own land? Just a small corner, nothing perfect, just something that begins.